Rooted in faith, rooted in family, rooted in values, rooted in traditions. Welcome to the Rooted Outdoors podcast.
Welcome to the Rooted Outdoors podcast from the truck.
From the truck.
It's a new one for us. From the truck in Texas. I'm in Texas this week here. We're heading to our good friend Josh Milligan's film school down in Austin, Texas, or San Marcos, whatever. I don't know anything about Texas. Same idea.
Same
Austin.
area.
It's
same
Austin.
area. We're south of Austin, between Austin and San Marcos.
So we're driving down there, and we have about a 4.5 hour drive. So we thought, what better thing to do in the car than to do a podcast? So we got our GoPro up on the windshield, and we got our camera recording, and so we're gonna do a podcast. So so what should we start with? Maybe a turkey update.
Turkey's updates.
Give me some Texas turkey hunting updates.
Oof.
Yeah.
Wow, it's been rough, man. It's been rough. I feel like that's been the pattern lately. Is rough hunting in Texas, but I knew it was going to take some time to learn the area, and it's been challenging at times, but it's also been fun. Like I found, if you remember, we were talking a little bit about turkeys on one of our podcasts before, and I found turkeys like the end of March, and I was pretty confident actually that I could get in there, and as we get to
Everybody's been there.
I literally pulled into a parking spot, and they were roosted like almost above me, and they don't go far. They roost in the same area, so even if they weren't in that tree, I knew that we were going to be close, or I was going to be close to them. And that first day, got in there, first light. It was a little rainy. The weather wasn't great, so I didn't expect a ton of gobbling, although sometimes it surprises you, but there was not. I mean, it was dead silent, and I put probably 10 miles on the trails in there and in the woods, and just didn't run into anything, but sometimes that's how it is. And then the second time I went out, actually that first time I did see two turkeys. I saw one actually that was on a road that got spooked by a car and kind of flew up across over a fence and then pitched into the woods, and actually parked at a spot and tried to go after that bird. I don't even know if it was a gobbler. I mean, it could have been a hen. Never saw it. And then on the way out that afternoon, I did see a hen on the side of the road on the same kind of area. So I'm hunting public land in very, very, very north Texas. So a lot of area, really cool area to hunt. It's grasslands, so a lot. I guess the downfall of that, though, is that a lot of it is high grass at this time of the year, so it's really tough to see them, and you just got to get in there. And then the second time I went out, I didn't see anything, and it had rained a lot, so I don't know if that had a lot of effect. There was a lot of flooded areas and stuff. Just didn't get on any birds. It was a good morning. It was 50s, and thought, I was pretty encouraged that, because again, if you're in an area where the turkeys are, they're roosting, sooner or later, if you're in that spot, you're going to run into them at some point. You're going to hear them, whatever. Again, nothing put a lot of miles on that day, and ended up heading out. And then the last weekend, so this past weekend, was our last day here in the north zone of Texas, and I headed to a different area where they have a high population of Rios. Rio turkeys, and I've never even seen a Rio turkey, so
I've not either.
Something new. Drove out there kind of blindly in the dark. I found a spot, kind of walked in, felt like I was by myself. It was supposed to rain hard that day. Last Saturday it was supposed to rain hard, and I knew it was coming by like 8 o'clock, so I tried to get in and do what I needed to do. About 1.5 miles in, turned a corner and ran into a pickup truck that was parked there. So, there was somebody else back there hunting, so potentially there's turkeys there. I don't know. I didn't hear anything, didn't see anything, didn't see a lot of sign. Did see a couple deer though, actually. I don't even know if I told you that. I did see some deer, so good spot to go back to. Again, a lot of this is, I'm out there to harvest a turkey, but I'm also learning a complete new area, and I'm scouting for multiple things when I'm out there, not just turkeys for deer, for anything.
For sure.
So yeah, man, that's been my story. No turkeys yet in Texas, and I really honestly don't feel. I know we're going to talk about this probably, but I don't feel a lot of pressure on it. I just, of course, I want one, but my freezer remains empty so far. So, how about you, dude?
Oh man, it's been interesting season. So we had our youth hunt, which we're not going to get too much into that yet, but man, that was an awesome day. That was one of the best days I've ever had in the turkey woods. It was it had everything. And we are going to put out a film about that hunt that we spent a lot more time planning this year. We really tried to put together a story and film with a purpose, regardless of if there was a harvest or not. We'll also get into that, but the story is not just about a harvest or a kill. There's so much more than that. And that's one of the things that we wanted to do with this film this year, is really tell more of a story, more of a message. And so we're super excited for that. It's going to take a little while to put together for a couple different reasons, but definitely be on the lookout for that. That should be some of the best work that we've ever put out, I think. So for sure. We'll see how that goes. So that was the youth hunt, which was awesome. And after that hunt, like I said, it was one of the best days we've ever had in the woods. You get to opening day and you think it's going to be a slam dunk. And so I went out with my cousin and took him out, and we snuck into a spot that I thought was just going to be could have been over in an hour. And it could have been. It very well could have been. But it was wind gusts 30, 40 miles an hour, which is not good for turkey. Yeah. And heard them early on the roost, heard them behind us. We had one come out into the field, kind of far over a hill. I tried calling to him, and I just think it was too windy for him to hear it. So he never came in. Just to show how windy it was, I was sitting there just like this, kind of having a conversation with my cousin, and I look over, and there's a hen literally 5 feet in front of the blind feeding, which is crazy to me. But it was just so, you couldn't hear anything. Obviously, she couldn't hear you either. No, obviously not. And we had two more come out at the same spot, and then that was pretty much it for that day. Mm-hmm. And then I went out the next weekend. I kind of started to put together the pattern of where they start the day and then where they go to. So I was going to start the day kind of closer to the roost, see if I could get one off the roost. Yeah. I did have a jay come in really early, probably like 8 yards away. I really want to kill a tom at the farm, so I didn't shoot him, although I was tempted, not gonna lie. And then I snuck over to this other spot where if they don't come pretty early, they tend to head to this specific spot. So I got set up there, and sure enough, about 8:30, I had two toms hammering pretty hard out in the field, coming right at me. And I had my decoys out. I don't know what happened, but they just kind of kept feeding, and they stayed about 80 yards away the entire time, and ended up going into the woods. They just would not come in.
Were you calling the time?
I called a little bit. Yeah. They responded a couple times. I didn't call
when they were in the field. Could see you?
No.
Okay.
I kind of just let them go. And I just was so confident that they were going to come in. And they ended up just going into the tree line behind me, which is on a neighboring property, which I do not have permission to hunt. Under other circumstances, I might have been able to circle behind them, but unfortunately not in this one. And that was pretty much my hunt for the day. And then I went out, I guess it was last weekend, and tried something very similar. I was going to start at the same spot, see if I could get one off the roost. Heard them, but they kind of shut up by like 6:45. And so I snuck around to the other spot, and I was in the tree line right where those two toms had gone in last week, figuring if they did something similar, I'd be waiting for them. Yep. And nothing. And then I moved to a flat where I think they kind of feed midday to see if I could get one going, and nothing. So my hunt was pretty much over at 6:45 that day. And that's pretty much been it for me this season. We have Corey's coming into Pennsylvania. I guess it's
for a quick one.
Toward the end of the season for one day.
It's the last weekend.
Yeah, it's the last weekend. So I'll do that one, and hopefully we can get it on them. But it's been a rough season. I feel like I've learned a lot, and I've seen a lot of really cool things. Yeah. But as far as being able to harvest a turkey. It just my freezer is also empty.
I know. Yeah, I mean, it's like it's not just us. I mean, you know that later on in the season it gets a little bit harder to kill turkeys. I know you can kill them in just a different strategy, and I don't feel like we've dialed that in yet. And that's something that we're working hard to do. I think obviously every property is a little bit different too, but turkeys in general are going to do the same things pattern-wise every year. So we just got to figure out now that this time of year it's just about getting in their path, I think, and finding one, because the hens, generally the hens are winding down, a little bit, but the toms are still looking. And if you can get a lonely tom that's going to commit to you, I think it's definitely, the odds are definitely in your favor. It's just a matter of finding that tom.
Yep. Just tough right now, but yeah, it's been good. It's been good. It kind of leads us into the main topic of this podcast this week is, talking about, how we define success in hunting, and how it's not just about harvesting an animal, how there's so much more to it. So you want to kind of kick us off with just kind of your story a little bit with that, and how you've grown in that.
Yep.
And I'll kind of share mine, and then we'll just touch on a couple other things that I'm sure a lot of people can relate to with some of the things that we're seeing.
I think my eyes have really been opened the last several years, probably the last, I would say, 6 to 8 years. I mean, I've been hunting since 11 years old, probably. I was in the woods. I'm not saying I was hunting at 11, but I was in the woods at 11 with my dad. And, I think for a long time, I was a meat hunter, and I'm not saying I'm not a meat hunter yet. I'm going to eat everything that, if I'm not eating it, I'm donating it, right?
Sure.
To Hunters for the Harvest or something like that. But I mean, there was years where I can remember not too long ago where I would shoot, 1, 2, 3 doe in a year. And really every time I went out, that was the mission. The mission was to harvest a deer. And while some of that hasn't changed, I think just the way I look at the actual hunt itself, my mission was to get in there, harvest the deer, and the disappointment would set in, and I, to be honest, got spoiled for a while too, because, again, I was shooting a lot of doe, primarily, not a lot of bucks. And, while I enjoy the meat and stuff like that, I started to look at it a little bit differently, and look at, why do I really hunt, for one, and then what am I getting out of this? What are the most important pieces of the hunt?
Yep.
And I actually think, to be honest, I think it had a lot to do with my relationship with the Lord, and finding that relationship.
Yeah.
The stronger that got, the more I kind of was aware of God's creation. And that's, you and I talk about this all the time. So Breaking Dawn, that's the name of our film company. That came about because Breaking Dawn, when dawn breaks in the morning, that's like the coolest thing for me. And that's the one thing I look forward to the most.
Yeah.
That's why I know there's times where it doesn't make sense to hunt in the morning, but I prefer to hunt in the morning sometimes, because that transition from the time that the woods is awake at night to when the woods is waking up, it's like almost this, it's almost like a swap of shifts.
It's awesome,
right? It's a swap of shifts, and the animals that are up and they've been hunting all night, they're tired, they're going to bed, right? And then you have the birds and everything else that's waking up, the turkeys that are waking up, and you have this transition, and Breaking Dawn is this whole thing that happens. And I think that's what I really started to appreciate. And then, I know we've talked about this before, but really focusing on the time, how much you can learn from the time you leave your truck to the time you get to your blind, or to your hunting spot, to your tree stand or whatever. There's so much that you can learn when you're not in a tree stand, making the travel way to, making the entrance to your stand, and then also making the exit. A lot of times I'd find myself, packing up, lowering my bow down, and that's the end of the hunt for me. But then I realized that there's so much more that you can learn on the way out too, right? That's not the end of the hunt. In fact, many times you'd learn things on the way out that you go, wow, like I'm so close. I was so close, maybe see some fresh tracks or, whatever. And you're like, oh, I wish I would have known that on the way in. I wish I would have seen that on the way in and known where to set up, and then you know what to do next time, type of thing. Just be aware of things. You might bump a deer on the way out. And that gives you kind of a sign that you were in the right, you were close, you were in the right area, they were in the area. So just learning that kind of stuff and being more aware of the value of understanding and learning and like taking each individual piece of the hunt, not just the kill, that becomes more valuable than the actual kill itself. And that's I think you get a higher appreciation and respect for the hunt itself, the journey of the hunt, and the animal too, because you learn a lot of stuff and you go, wow, like, instead of getting out of the tree and going, I have no idea why I didn't kill a deer, like you might not have enough information to beat yourself up about it, if that makes sense. Right? So 100%. That's kind of my view on it. I still have an empty freezer, but the journey has been fun, and if not more fun. Would I love to have a full freezer of venison and some turkey meat? Yeah. But that will come. I'm patient with that, and I'm learning along the way, man. So
that's all you can do.
Yeah. So that's my view of hunting. And I can't say it'll never shift a different way, but that currently is kind of where I'm at. And I'm just enjoying the ride right now, and it's also fun to finally, I guess, after so many years of hunting, know that I'm on bigger deer and mature deer too, like during whitetail season every year now, especially at the farm. I mean, primarily at the farm, we're chasing bigger deer that are of caliber that, I've never even seen in the woods, and that's exciting every year too, to know that you're getting better every year. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I can share a little bit kind of my story, my background. I think it kind of, it's very similar to yours in ways, and then it's I think our stories and what we're going through right now is a little bit different. Obviously, not just where we're hunting, but just a little bit different in a couple other ways. So when I first started hunting, I had a really small spot that my buddy let me hunt, really small acreage, and nobody hunted in there. It was very, very urban type hunting, which can be really exciting.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of deer in there, and the reality was it was very easy to see deer and to shoot deer in there pretty much whenever we wanted. And so early on, I really started to measure my success by whether I was able to harvest a deer or not, and that was just the reality that I was living in because that's what I was able to do. And I think it really gave me a bad view of what hunting is, as I evolved and I got some other spots to hunt, and I started to not have that level of quote unquote success all the time. I kind of build up like some stress inside when I would go out and I wouldn't harvest something or have a really good encounter and leave. I just didn't see any positive in that.
Yeah.
All I would see was that I wasn't able to get it done that day. What was wrong with me, or why wasn't I able to go in and do exactly what I wanted to do? And I was missing so many things that go into hunting. For me, like the harvest is a very small piece of the hunt. And in reality, the hunt is actually a very small piece of the process.
Yeah, for sure.
For us, the hunting season, it starts, the minute that the one season ends, the next season starts, and it's 365 days a year, whether you're scouting and you're shed hunting in the winter, or you're, doing food plots or glassing fields or hanging cameras or actually hunting in the fall, and then you just kind of restart, and you're looking at maps and you're trying to figure things out that way. It's just a year-long process, and I think that if you spend too much of your focus and your time just on like the harvest and the kill, you just miss so many small things. And for me, it just kind of made me step back at some point, probably a couple years ago, and just say, like, why am I actually doing this? Like, I'm not really enjoying a lot of the lot of my hunting experiences, because I'm not looking at it from a holistic point of view. I'm just looking at one specific thing, and it really makes you not enjoy it. And for me, it wasn't until I kind of stepped back and started to see all the little things. Corey talked about breaking dawn, and just looking at all of the incredible things that you get to see and the smells. Just an example during turkey season and deer season as well. One of my favorite things to do at the farm is when I'm hiking out, you kind of come over this first hill, and it's dark, but I can kind of start to see the sun where it's going to peak up. I can see like a little bit of light over there, and a lot of times there's a little bit of color, and I just stand there and kind of just soak it all in, and just an amazing place to hunt, and just the opportunity that I have in front of me to be out in creation, and the things that I'm going to see and hear and smell that day. And those are just really cool moments for me that in the past I would have thrown my pack on and grabbed my bow, put my head in the dirt, and just went straight into my stand, and nothing would have started until I was up in the tree and the sun was up. Mm-hmm. And you already missed so much. Yep. You've already missed so much. So that was something that's really changed for me, is being able just to enjoy all the little things and not measuring my success on whether I am able to harvest an animal or not.
Yeah. One of the things that you talked about, we just recently talked about, that I'd like you to touch on, is the whole social media thing. We, social media is that kind of like double-edged sword. Like you need it. We use it for our businesses. It helps with marketing, and it's good for what it's used for, but then it also can really mess with your mind a little bit, your mindset.
Sure.
So why don't you touch on that a little bit, because I know it's something that's been kind of on your mind a little bit.
It has.
I know you're dealing with it. I know it's better than it was.
It was, yeah. So I'd say probably 2 or 3 years ago, probably 3 years ago, I just remember scrolling through social media and seeing everybody killing deer and killing turkeys, and just thinking to myself, man, why can't I do that? Like, why are these people all so much better than me at what they're doing? I work hard and I hunt hard, and I feel like I really, there's obviously things that I can learn and can do better, but I feel like I have a good enough understanding of the woods and how to hunt animals that I should be having a lot more success. And it wore on me a lot. And, the reality was, like, I had a lot of built up anxiety and anger and stress just from looking at social media. And, just a couple things I want to touch on. One, there's nothing wrong with seeing someone that's successful and trying to, work hard to achieve the level of success that they have. There's nothing wrong with that. But it is a fine line. The line is that when it gets to a point where it's causing you stress because you're not getting there, or it's causing you anger and jealousy, seeing somebody else. I remember all sorts of times where a good friend of mine or a family member or somebody would kill a deer, kill a turkey, and instead of being genuinely happy for them, I was angry. I was, why isn't that me? Like, why are, they're not as good as me? And it's not a good place to be. Not a good place to be. And it's taken a lot of intentional, dedication, and a lot of thought process to get to a point where I can genuinely be happy for them. So I think it's that fine line of wanting to go after that, put in the work to do it, but not letting it just completely take over your life. And I think it's really important. I think the second thing too for me that I realized was, and I'm sure a lot of you, go through similar things when you see people posting pictures, why, asking questions like, why isn't that me? And some levels of jealousy can certainly creep in. You don't know anybody's situation surrounding what has gone on for them to get to that point. Maybe they did spend hours and hours scouting public land and hiking in, 10, 20 miles to get after a certain deer, and then they had success and they just flat out worked harder than you. Maybe they just got lucky. Maybe they just paid for a hunt where they were going to have success. And all of those are okay situations.
Yeah.
But for you to compare yourself to something that you don't even know the circumstances surrounding it is also a really dangerous place to be. So that's something that I've had to really be intentional about and work on, because it is something that I struggled with, and at times I still do. You know, when you're in the second week of November and you haven't gotten it done, you know, things start to weigh on you, especially when you're seeing a lot of people online who have. So those are two things that have really been eye-opening for me and have really helped me kind of get over that. And you know, that anxiety and stress and anger, it takes away from the enjoyment that I had, you know, in the woods, and that's just not a good place to be.
For sure. I think, you know, it makes me think too of like when you and I started hunting together, we had, I want to say, two completely different experiences, but in essence, we kind of did. You know, it goes back to, you know, I had shot a lot of deer, and I had not been around or seen a ton of mature deer, and you had seen a lot of mature deer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's kind of what.
And not shot a lot of deer.
My norm and your norm were completely different.
Totally different.
And I think that's really balanced each other out.
Yeah.
I think we've had many conversations about that.
Yeah.
It brought me to the reality that I needed to be around mature deer in order to see them. I mean, I know that sounds like common sense, but
Yeah.
it's true, and you can hear that from anybody that's killing big deer, big mature deer. You have to be around where
Yeah.
mature deer are, and
For
I
sure.
wasn't at many times in my life. So
Yeah.
you were, and that gave me the confidence that, look, like, to be honest, right? Like, this is somebody who hasn't been hunting nearly as long as I have, and he's around mature deer. Like, I just need to get it. I need to figure it out. So you've helped me a lot on that aspect.
Yeah, and I think you know, to go the other way, you know, I just haven't shot a lot of deer, and being around Corey, who has, you know, it kind of gave me a different perspective on things. And I you know, when I first met him, I told him flat out, like, I don't really have any interest in shooting a doe.
Yeah.
Like, to be honest.
Yeah.
And now, like, I'm looking to take multiple doe a year, because, like, I really enjoy eating that and being able to share it with other people. So that's something that's been a switch for me. But then also, you know, just seeing, you know, I've been really blessed with some incredible places to hunt, and I don't think I really had a full appreciation for that for a while, because that's all I had known.
Yeah.
You know, coming from you, who had hunted a lot of public land, and you hadn't seen a lot of really mature deer. It really put things in perspective for me, and I think it's really important to surround yourself with people who can kind of speak into your life in different ways, especially when it comes to hunting. You know, like we just talked about, very specific ways that we both spoke into each other's lives. It's really important to get different perspectives on that. But also, I think one of the things that is really important in our relationship, and it's important to have other people when you're out hunting. You know, the reality is, 99% of the time when you're hunting, you're not gonna be able to harvest an animal. You're gonna fail. You're gonna quote unquote fail.
Yeah.
And to be able to have somebody to put things in perspective. We tell each other all the time, hey, don't forget to just, you know, soak everything in when you're out there tomorrow. You know, even at the farm, like Corey will send me a message, hey, you make sure you just enjoy your time out there. Because sometimes I tend to get really focused on, like, man, I just need to kill something.
Especially this time of year.
Yeah, for sure. And just having that person that can kind of remind you of those things really helps you to have a mindset switch, and helps you just to enjoy everything and just enjoy the hunt so much more, and realize that it's not just about killing an animal. There's so many things that if you just focus on that, there's just so many things that you're going to miss.
Yeah, I think sometimes too, you have to, no matter what it is, but what it is in your life that you're doing, sometimes you gotta take a deep breath, and you gotta sit back, and you gotta ask yourself why you do something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's no different with hunting. And I think, you know, if you get to a place sometimes where you are frustrated a little bit with things, or it's not as fun as it used to be, like, you've got to sit down and you've got to ask yourself why you do it.
Yeah.
You know, and again, not taking away from anybody that their primary sole reason to be out in the woods, like, they wouldn't be in the woods or they wouldn't be outdoors unless they were in a tree stand. But that's not me. Like, I'm outdoors all the time. if that's what you get out of it, good for you. Like, do your thing. But if you get to a place where you start asking yourself why you do it, and you really are struggling with the reasons, I'm also a person that, look, I think everybody should be exposed to the outdoors. Everybody should experience hunting or fishing or camping and all that stuff. But if you don't enjoy it and there's no big why behind the reason you're doing it, then don't do it. It's simple. Just because you grew up in a hunting family, it'd be like an attorney growing up. It'd be like somebody growing up in a family of attorneys, right? It feels pressured to be an attorney, right?
Yeah.
So they go be an attorney and they go, you know what? I'm not really happy being an attorney.
Right.
Don't just hunt because somebody else told you should hunt.
Right.
By the way, that's Baylor University.
Yeah,
so
that's cool.
Passing Baylor University here.
Yeah.
It's a cool stadium down there. Don't just do it because you feel like your buddies do it and I don't know. I mean, I just don't see the reason to do that. And to be honest, and this might hit a chord for someone, it may not, and hopefully it wakes you up maybe a little bit, but I actually don't think you have the right to be out there to harvest an animal if you don't have a big why enough behind it, why you're doing it. Because I think there's a disrespect level to that if you are just out there to kill something. Now, again, if you're out there to kill something to feed your family and eat the meat and stuff, like I don't have any problems with that. You know what I mean? But if it's just a sport of killing, I just don't.
Yeah,
I'm out for that.
Yeah, it's not for me.
Yeah.
Not for me. Yeah, there's a lot more to experience out there, and I think that's just kind of what we wanted to touch on today a little bit. It's something that's been really, really important for both of us. And look, we're not perfect. We go through times where, we work our butts off. That's the reality of it. We work our butts off to try to harvest, speaking deer, like mature deer.
Yeah.
And we're going to do everything that we can, and we take it serious. We take it very serious. But if it comes to a point where just an example, right? We like to film.
Yeah.
And, the past couple, probably since the past season, there's been times where I felt like I needed to film and I really didn't want to.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just wanted to hunt and wanted to soak it in, and I just, felt like I needed to film. And over the past year or so, I've done probably more hunts where I really wasn't filming that much than I have, because it felt like more of a burden than it did anything else. And I know that's just one example. I know not everybody films. I love to film a lot of times, but sometimes I just want to hunt.
Yep.
And that's okay too. Yep. And so I've done a lot of that where I haven't even been filming because I took a step back and was like, man, like why am I even doing this? Like I don't want to really film, and because I don't want to film, I don't really want to hunt, and I'm not enjoying any of the process.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's just not what it's about. So
I remember this brings back a memory too of this past year during the rut, and we had another grind of a rut week in PA. And I remember that afternoon I think we were just getting done eating lunch maybe.
Yeah.
And that little button buck came in.
Yeah.
And had no clue we were there. Poor guy, like just clueless to the world. Came in and bed down, curled up for 45 minutes, an hour.
Yeah,
20 yards from the tree stand. We couldn't do anything. I think we were getting ready to eat, right? And I was like, man, I'm starving. I leaned over. But those are the kind of things that, if you're not patient, like if you're not in it for the right reasons, you're not going to experience those things, which actually is what keeps you going every single day.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the part of it is the chase. I get that. But like those things, and knowing that something like that could happen, that you could experience that nobody else or a lot of other people in the world are not going to experience.
Yep.
Seeing an animal in its element, in its natural habitat, where it has no idea you're there, like that's one of the coolest things in the world. So
it's amazing.
Those little things.
It is. So, just to kind of wrap up here quick, if anybody's out there listening and this is something that you're struggling with, maybe you've hunted for a long time and you haven't quote unquote had success, or maybe you're just kind of losing your desire to go out and hunt, I would encourage you just to kind of step back and ask some of those why questions. Why are you out there doing it? If you want to chat with us about it, we would be more than happy to chat with anybody. This is something that's really, really important for us, and we're happy to talk about it. And we're happy to talk about our own personal experiences and our own failures. We're not shy about those things. like Corey said, I have a farm loaded with turkey, and I haven't killed a turkey there in 2 years, and that's just the reality.
Because you're just a bad turkey hunter.
That's pretty much it. That's probably true. That's probably true.
That's how you know the kid.
But we're pretty open and honest about those things. We're happy to talk about it with anybody if that's something that somebody was interested in. Because at the end of the day, you gotta have fun. Like you gotta have fun.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
I think that too, like that just reminds me of what we're trying to do and create this community of other people that have a sounding board that can be vulnerable, that can have this safe place, and that's this rooted community that we're building. And so so like Dave said, reach out to us. Like if you want to chat about something, or jump on a Zoom conference call and just talk through some things. That's kind of what we're here for, to create this community of hunters that are struggling with things that a lot of guys are struggling with, but they want to be too macho to talk about. Like this isn't the place for it. So that's it, man.
That's it. Well, listen, we appreciate you guys following along. We appreciate everybody who follows us and comments on our posts and has encouraging things to say to us. Those little comments mean so much to us.
For sure.
They really do. So continue to follow along. You can check out our videos on YouTube. We have a Facebook page, Instagram. We also have, which we haven't talked about a ton, but we have our production company called Breaking Dawn Films. You can check us out on Facebook, and we'll have hopefully a website up soon. We do also have an Instagram there, but we'll be doing a lot more of that, especially after we go to our film school here in Texas. We'll be doing a lot more with Breaking Dawn. So if you know anyone that's looking for some video help, we'd be happy to speak with them. But you got anything else to wrap up here?
Man, we are on a truck. we're still 2 hours away from our destination here in Texas, so we got a little bit of a time in the drive here, but we're getting into some Texas hill country here, so
ready for
some beautiful areas that you get to see.
Beautiful.
So just excited, man.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
Yeah, we'll appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to you in the next one.
Take care.
Therefore, as you received Christ Jesus the Lord, so walk in him, rooted and built up in him, and established in the faith, just as you were taught, abounding in thanksgiving. Colossians 2:6 and 7.